On tonight's show, we're talking Steve Kerr, out indefinitely as coach of the Golden State Warriors. We're talking about Michael Vick's return to the field with Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm giving you a little bit about 1 week fantasy leagues, and I've got my picks for the week. And really, if you're a gambler, go ahead and pick everything opposite of what I pick, because it's just not pretty. I'll never give you a fantasy pick, so stay tuned. And what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Words to My Face. My name is Brian. With me, as always, producer extraordinaire Brendan.
Yo.
And we are the one and only home of the Chewbacca chainsaws. And tonight is Friday, actually, so we're just going to do our sports show a day late. That's how we roll.
It gives us a better perspective on the week. Because.
Not really, but sure.
What other sports things are going on Friday nights? Nothing.
But we missed the sports event from Thursday. I guess it's fine. Yeah, we just felt like doing it on Friday.
We didn't compete with the Ravens game. I say the Ravens game because they're the closest. But
yeah, or the Steelers-Ravens game. It was a pretty good game.
I mean, that's a big rivalry right there.
We'll talk about it a little bit. But so tonight is our sports night. So guess what we're talking?
Is it sports?
Oh my God, you're good. You're good. How'd you know?
I know, because I'm technical.
How'd you know? That's crazy.
I read the script ahead of time. Got a little inside knowledge.
Cheated. You cheated. But yeah, so let's just jump right into it. I say we just jump straight into it. We usually have some banter going back and forth in the beginning. And we're just going to jump right into it. So the first story I want to talk about tonight is Steve Kerr, head coach of the Golden State Warriors, has taken a leave of absence, an indefinite leave of absence, to kind of recover because apparently, and this is something I didn't even realize happened, he ruptured a disc during Game 5 of the NBA Finals.
The coach ruptured a disc.
Yeah, I don't know how, but he did. So,
yeah. That's some intense coaching. Yeah,
he's had multiple back surgeries over the summer, and he was saying because training camps are about to start up, usually right about now, we're going to start seeing everybody report to training camp. They're going to start having preseason games, and he was just not healthy, not 100%. So he's taken indefinite leave of absence. Now, what does this mean? Will he miss the regular season? Not 100% sure. I highly doubt he'll miss more than November if he does miss any of it. But this is going to be an interesting thing for the Golden State Warriors because the Golden State Warriors were a team with talent. We all knew that. They were a team that was good, and they had good coaching 2 years ago. Mark Jackson coached that team, and he coached them well, but didn't quite ever get them quite to the apex like Steve Kerr did. Now, when Steve Kerr came in, he kept all of the good things that were happening there, the defense and the ball rotation and all this nice stuff on all. I said defense. I meant offense. All this great stuff going on offense, but the defense was kind of lackluster. Steve Kerr comes in and he changes that around. They go from a 52-win team, I want to say, 2 years ago, to a 60-win team last year. And more than 60. I think it was like 61 or 62. So it was a pretty good improvement. I mean, it's hard to improve off of a 52-win season.
Yeah.
And they'll improve by 10 games.
Yeah. Over a couple of years. That's
over 1 year. It was
1 year. Okay.
Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. And then they go from a team that was the 4 or 5 seed perennially in the West to a team that became the number 1 seed in the West in the best conference in basketball. And then they just they went through showing you why they're better than everybody else throughout the playoffs. Now, they did have their tests here and there. For a second or two, it looked like LeBron James might be able to work a miracle, but he can't do it by himself. And so this is actually going to be a really big detriment to this team, just because you're going to lose the leadership and veteran knowledge of Steve Kerr, a guy who's won, I want to say, 6 championships himself. He was there with Michael Jordan for a while. He was also on the Spurs towards the tail end of his career, so he's won his fair share of titles too. Now, one question I think about is, will this be that big of a deal just because these players already know, okay, he taught us this last year.
Mm.
He brought us through the hard times. And I think, yeah, because there's a reason you don't just hire a coach for 1 year and then just let the players do what they want the next year. And that's because you need constant coaching. You need to have somebody constantly evaluating what's going on in the court and making the correct changes. And Steve Kerr seemed to be a whiz at that. So I don't know.
Well,
does this hurt the chances of Golden State? No, it's indefinite.
His coaching staff is still going to be the same until they get.
Yeah, he'll have an interim head coach. I'm sure most of the staff will be the same. So a lot of that will be there. But, like I said, Mark Jackson was a very good coach. He took them to plenty of really successful seasons, but you replace him with a guy who maybe is a little bit better of a coach, and then they win the championship. Yeah. So is this going to be the difference between them winning a championship and them kind of not faltering, but maybe going back to the 4 or 5 seed 50-win season with not really being too much in the conversation to contend for a championship?
I think they would at least hope that they'll do all right at least for this year, because he has already put so much in place, because the coaching staff is still the same. And I don't know what you think, but I've always had the impression with basketball that the coaches are important for training and setting up, but it's not like, say, football where they're there calling plays every down or making like huge game time decisions, other than in the last few minutes when you have to set up major plays that come back from behind. Then the in basketball.
Well, I mean, the coach is. Yes, I'm not going to say he's quite as focal as a football coach, because the football coach does call plays. But you got to remember that basketball, they do run set plays as well, and the coach does call those in, and he's got to call them in at the right time. And then also a basketball coach looks at matchups. Okay, this guy is stronger against this guy, or this guy's weaker against this guy, and he gets the appropriate players in there. He's also regulating minutes for his players so that they don't get too tired at any one time. You do some similar things in football, but it's more of a fluid. Yeah. It's more of a fluid thing, and they can manage the tiredness. But let's say there's 30 seconds left or 10 seconds left. They have the ball. They're down by 2, and they need to draw up a play. Those plays are drawn up on the spot most of the time.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying.
Some set plays that they make those
but for the last few minutes. Yeah, definitely for the last few minutes in basketball, the coach in his play calling in the last few minutes is definitely absolutely key. Or at least much more prominent. But so they might suffer there. But again, he might have had things in place enough that they could, make it by with the coaching staff that's already there, with everyone that's there. I think for progress of the team over later in the year, maybe, and into next year, they definitely need him back. Or another head coach.
They could make it by with me as their head coach. Would they win a championship with me as their head coach? Probably not. So, but I could probably coach them to like 40 wins. Go out there and play your basketball, guys.
Do what the guy before me said to do before.
Remember when Steve Kerr was here? Yeah, do what he would have said. Imagine him do that. So, it's going to be interesting. But let me know what you think. Is Steve Kerr going to... loss of Steve Kerr for at least a portion of this year going to be very detrimental, or not really felt that much, because he'll be back eventually? I mean, it's not like he's out for the entire year. Hit us up, let us know what you think, and comments down below, of course, at What's My Face on Twitter, Google Plus, Facebook, always good ways of getting a hold of us. But let's keep on rolling, and let's talk some Michael Vick. So he made his return to the big stage last night. He has been the backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers for this year. And with Ben Roethlisberger going down last week, he actually did make an appearance in relief. But now he got the whole start. And you know what? Didn't play too bad. Now, his team did not come away with a win there. Not so sure I'm going to pin it all on him. He did not play great. But there was plenty of facets of the game where they didn't play good enough. I mean, they could have won the game in overtime if they had a kicker that they trusted. But instead of that, they went for the first down. Towards the end it was like they were on the 30-yard line, I believe, and it was 4th and 1. And instead of kicking a field goal, they decided to go for it. Baltimore Ravens stopped them, drove down the other side of the field, almost from the exact same spot where the Steelers had just gone for it. They kick a field goal and they win the game. So Michael Vick's role in that win, not really that big. Let me look up some stats stats for him. But I just find it interesting because this guy, he's almost 35 years old now. This is a guy who's been in the game, and he's a guy who's taken a lot of punishment throughout his entire career.
He's also had a lot of success.
Seeing him. He's had some success. I want to say he's barely over 500. He's like, I think 59 and 50.
I'm not saying. I mean, when he was the teams he was playing with didn't have necessarily that much success, but he put up some numbers. He performed well for at his position anyway. At least most of the time when I would see him, and I was always rather upset that he did as well as he did, say, against the Redskins. But he was able to perform well at key points anyway.
Yeah, well, like last night, I mean, he was 19 of 26 for 124 yards and 1 touchdown. That's a 4.8 yards per attempt average. That's pretty horrendous. Now, he did rush for some yards. He actually ran for 33 yards. But if you look at that, that's a combined of 150 yards. That's not enough for a starting quarterback. So, like I said, he didn't lose him the game. They really tasked him more to be a game manager. They really wanted Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo Williams to take over. Like, Le'Veon Bell rushed for over 100 yards last night. What is this number? 129. So they really didn't want Vick to be the one who either won or lost them the game. So it's not that he lost them the game, but he didn't win it for him either.
And clearly they haven't been practicing with him as heavily as a starting quarterback. He's been on the team, but I don't know. The backup quarterback, there's always talk about they haven't had all the same amount of practice with the starters.
With the first team guys. Yeah, they have the same amount of practice, just not with the first team guys. And this is something we're looking at across the league. I can't remember so many marquee quarterbacks going down so early, it seems like, because you look over there in Dallas and they have Brandon Wheaton starting for Tony Romo. And I'm drawing a blank of the other places, but there's 2 other places that have backup quarterbacks that are starting in place. Oh, one is in St. Louis. You have Luke McCown starting there. And then in Chicago, I can't remember who Jay Cutler's backup is, but yeah, they have a new starting quarterback there. So it's interesting to see. Always hear about how valuable.
One could argue that the Redskins starting quarterback is also their backup quarterback from just before the season. So.
Yeah, well, but it's interesting to see what's going on around the league. Now, you have seen instances where a backup quarterback comes in and does spectacular. Tom Brady came in for Drew Bledsoe when Drew Bledsoe got injured, and Tom Brady led him to the Super Bowl and never looked back. Yeah, he was the quarterback.
That worked out for him.
It worked out all right. There was a time in Chicago, I want to say last year or 2 years ago, where Jay Cutler again had gone down, and Josh McCown, Luke McCown's older brother, I believe, came in and played spectacular and helped him get ready for the playoffs. So there are times when a backup quarterback can come in, but it just didn't seem like Michael Vick had his oomph to him. Now, again, he is getting older. It's not super surprising to see him on the Pittsburgh Steelers because his style of play, he's a mobile quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger is still considered a mobile quarterback. He's not necessarily going to be taking off down the field like Michael Vick has the ability to, but he does move around more. And so they kind of got a quarterback that fit kind of what they're used to doing. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Steelers are going to play from here on out because their defense is not the traditional Steelers defense that it has been in years past. It is a lot weaker than it used to be. And that offense was really what was supposed to shine with Antonio Brown having like a bazillion catches last year. Le'Veon Bell was supposed to come out and just really tear things up, and he has so far. Antonio Brown has played spectacular too with Ben Roethlisberger there, but now you don't have Ben Roethlisberger. So it's a kind of time, wait and see, time will tell type thing. If Roethlisberger is out for an extended period of time, I have a feeling that this is going to lead to a lot of losses for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, we'll see. So hit us up, let us know. What do you think? Is Michael Vick going to surge? Is he going to really have his fourth wind, I guess, is what we're on for him, and take the Steelers to the playoffs? Or is he going to flounder and they're going to hope Ben comes back quicker than the original reports? So hit us up, let us know. Comments down below. Yeah, well, yeah. Google Plus and Facebook, always good ways getting a hold of us, but let's keep on rolling. And I believe the next topic is
1 week fantasy football leagues and how you can win.
Yeah, I don't know how you can win necessarily unless you have a computer with an algorithm, but I'll give you some tips to maybe feel more confident when you're entering
Time
your one
travel.
week leagues.
Time
Now, one
travel.
week leagues are this. Well, time travel would be the best. I mean, come on, that's obvious. But one week leagues are kind of the new rage. Fantasy football really became big maybe about 10 years ago, and it really changed the dynamic of the game because you no longer had to just root for your team. You also had a rooting interest in players from all teams almost. And it really brought the NFL, which was already the biggest sport in America, to an even bigger. Somehow it raised the bar for the NFL just in terms of how many people are interested in watching and how just like the franchise worth and everything like this. It just shot right up, and you can contribute a lot of that to people paying more attention to football because of fantasy football.
Yeah, and
Well,
you
now,
mentioned the last 10 years, but I would say even more so the last, say, 3 to 5 years. We start now seeing all the commercials of the NFL promoting their fantasy football leagues, all the different groups promoting fantasy football leagues, like
well,
big
no, that's
sports
been going
stations
on.
doing that.
That's been going on.
It's been
Like I
going
said, for
on, but
about
I
10
think they've
years.
been putting more into promotion than they were previously.
I see. I haven't noticed any uptick in promotion for fantasy football. It's
Mm.
the 1 week fantasy football that's really gotten the boost, and so that's where we get 1 week fantasy football. Some smart guys were like, "Hey, how can we make money and possibly let other people make money week to week off of this?" And they developed the system, which actually is pretty ingenious. It's used almost universally through all these 1 week fantasy leagues. So what they give you is you have a salary cap. In FanDuel, the one I just joined this week, and dipping my toe in the water, see if I can do all right.
Which, by
Probably
the way,
won't,
we are
because
not
there's like
endorsed
hundreds
by
of thousands of
FanDuel,
people who play.
despite images and giving tips based off them. We are not associated with FanDuel. They have not sponsored us. They can if they would like to.
If they would like to, sure, please feel free. But yeah, that's just the site that I use. And so what they do is they give you a salary cap. This week it was $60,000. I believe that's pretty constant for what it is every week to week. And you have to pick a team. You have one quarterback, two running backs, I believe, three wide receivers, a tight end, a defense, and a kicker, if I'm correct. Might only be one running back, but yeah, no, I think it is two running backs. And so what you do is they assign a monetary value to each one of these players. So, for instance, I picked up Derek Carr as my quarterback this week. I believe his monetary value was like $7,600. My kicker, Matt Prater, he was maybe a $4,700 one. So, what you want to do is you kind of want to balance your team. You don't want to have it too heavy on one side and then light on the other, or vice versa. So you don't want to spend all your money on a quarterback and one running back and then have no money for any other players. So my kind of theory on this was I'm going to kind of go middle of the road for most of my picks. I'm going to pick one player that I know is going to be spectacular. One of these $9,000-$10,000 players that I know is just going to come out and have a spectacular week. And then the rest was kind of a guessing game, who I think is going to do good. I was looking at matchups against opponents, and that's something you can do with one of these 1 week fantasy football leagues that you can't quite do with your regular fantasy football. Don't get me wrong. You can certainly look at your schedules and say, okay, this player's going up against a strong run defense. This player's going up against a weak. I can switch it. But that's only if you have that option at that point, because we drafted a couple weeks ago, a month ago. By the time the end of the season, it'll be like 3-4 months ago. So you don't quite know how everything's going to pan out during the season. But with this 1 week fantasy football league, you can adapt and react to how it goes. So I'm just going to, I entered actually 4 different leagues. I spent about $30 entering different leagues. So my team for this week is going to be Derek Carr from the Oakland Raiders, who's just proven he's getting better and better and better. He will be, it looks like he's going to turn into one of the better quarterbacks in this league eventually, maybe not with the Raiders, who knows, but especially with Amari Cooper there, he's got a really good target. Then I stayed with the Raiders and got Latavius Murray, who actually last week crushed it. And part of the big reason I wanted 2 Raider players, whereas normally you'd stay as far away from the Raiders as you could, is because they're playing the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears are just absolutely horrendous this year. They're like last year's Jacksonville Jaguars. Just no talent almost anywhere on the field except for like Ashlon Jeffrey and Matt Forte. That's about it. But those guys are on the offensive side, so they're not going to stop my defensive players. Then my second running back, I went with Devontae Freeman, the running back out of Atlanta. Yeah, I'm kind of jumping on a bandwagon. He had 3 touchdowns on 150 yards last week. Is he going to do that again? No. But Coleman, their other running back, is actually out this week, so we're going to see an uptick in his carries. He's probably going to get close to as many carries as he did last week. If we're going to get the same production out of him, probably not. But since he hadn't been playing that much and hadn't been playing that well, his value was somewhere around like 6,500, 7,000. So, again, he's a really good value for a running back. Same with Latavius Murray. It's a guy who's on the upswing, yes, but he hasn't quite, solidified himself as a $9,000, $10,000 player. So, I'll pick those two guys. Then I was looking for a wide receiver, and I wanted to get a wide receiver who I knew would do well, but wouldn't cost me too much money. Well, thankfully, Larry Fitzgerald was out there. This guy's only caught a whole bunch of touchdowns this year. Like last year, he slowed down when Carson Palmer went out. But with Carson Palmer healthy, Larry Fitzgerald is just as much of a stud as he's ever been. So I went for him. Again, he's a value pick. I got him for about 6,000, 7,000, whereas in normal years, you almost rank him up there with a $9,000, $10,000 player. But this year, you can kind of, level it down a little bit because he hadn't had that high as expectation. So what I'm trying to say here is look for players that are on upswings, but that haven't necessarily been established as great players for the, I don't want to say the majority of your roster, but for a good couple picks so you can get some value out of those guys. Yeah, you might get unlucky and they have duds, but you might get really lucky and they shoot you towards, winning whatever room you're in. So the only real player that I went out and put a lot of money into was actually Julio Jones. This guy is just every year, if he can stay healthy, he's the leading wide receiver. Like 2 years ago, I want to say he started out the first 5-6 games. He was the leading wide receiver, got hurt. Same thing with last year. I think he was 5, 6, 7 games, gets hurt. Leading wide receiver, leading touchdown catcher, leading receptions, and leading in targets, everything. Matt Ryan loves this guy, and this guy loves Matt Ryan. And it doesn't hurt that you can say, all right, Julio, do a wide receiver screen or come 5 yards and in, or, hey, go straight deep. He can do every single route on the route tree. So this guy is a really good one. So that was the player that I focused in on. I said, okay, I've saved a little bit of money here. I'm going to put it into a guy that I know is going to have me a great week.
And I guess one of the nice things about these being the 1 week leagues is you don't have to worry as much about his risk of injury at some point in the season because you only need to make it through 1 week.
Yep. Exactly. And that's another thing is you don't have to worry about, I don't know if he'll have a good matchup next week. It's all about this week. You look up the matchups, you look at who they're playing, and you just pick from there. So, and then I kind of phoned it in with my kicker. I honestly went for the cheapest kicker I could find because I only had that much money left when I got to the kicker. Defense, I got the Broncos defense, solid defense, but they don't cost much anyway either. Then I also got James Jones and Greg Olsen to round things out. Greg Olsen, I think he's leading the league for tight ends with 100-yard games over the past since last year and this year. So just a great pickup, not very expensive. And James Jones of the Green Bay Packers, who just seems to be a touchdown machine. So that's kind of how I played it. Again, my way of looking at it was look for players with good matchups that are on the upswing, maybe not established like an Adrian Peterson or something like that, but that have shown flashes and they're having a good matchup. So I see Derek Carr, I see Latavius Murray. These guys are guys who show flashes, and they're up against a really soft defense this week. So that's kind of how I focused it in. That's really how I'm doing it. I don't know if it's going to be successful or not. I have to find out.
Yeah, clearly clearly the setup, especially with the caps, is very different than at least the leagues that we run in fantasy football than the majority of the full season fantasy football leagues. Just having that cap, having to manage money with assignments, that changes things up significantly. And
it does change things up, but it also gives you a little more freedom because, like you were saying earlier, you don't have to worry about injury bug. Mm-hmm. Oh, this guy always gets injured middle way through. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, these two guys have the same bye week. I'm not going to pick anybody on a bye week because they probably won't be available on my list. So you don't have to strategize that much, but you really get into the nitty gritty and look at the lineups and see where they're going to be successful.
And how many people teams did you say are typically in a league?
Well, it depends. Like I joined one league. It's a 50-50 league where the top 50% of the people in the league. So if you're 50, if you're at least better than 50 people, you're going to win a little money. So that's only 100 people in that league. Then
Well,
I
these are
entered
big
another
leagues,
league.
100 people. So if that's only 100, you're saying though that there's significant. These aren't like the other kinds of leagues that we see for the full seasons where it's like 8 teams, 10 teams, 12
Yeah, well,
teams.
because also in those leagues, one person can have one player. In this, everybody in my league, they could copy
Hmm.
my lineup if they wanted to. They could have the exact same lineup that I have right now if they wanted to. But
Which
because it's
also
cap,
changes
it
the
doesn't matter.
strategy significantly
Yeah.
because you're not thinking about taking away from other people, or it doesn't affect you how other people play.
Yeah, you're
Or
literally just going for the guys you think will get you the most points for the money. So, but I'm also in another league, a $300,000 league. 30,000 goes to the person who wins first, and then they dole out the prizes from there. There's 14,000 people in that league,
hmm,
and then there's a $2 million league. 150,000 goes to first. There's 239,000 in that one, and then I have another one that's another 150K one, and so it doesn't say what goes to first, but that's 19,000 in that one. So there are definitely more people in these, and you got to watch out. I have heard things of one of the things that people are doing nowadays to give themselves an edge. They'll enter maybe like it's a $1 million grand prize, and they will put in 10,000 entries. They
hmm.
have a computer algorithm that'll just keep putting in entries, keep putting in entries.
To game
So
the system.
if you can win $150,000 as first place, spending $10,000 is, that's, hey, who wouldn't do that?
Yeah, it becomes kind of like a
So
lottery system where it now your combination numbers is your combination of players, and if you can figure out that the prize is more than what you would have to pay to enter every combination or every reasonable combination, yeah,
then yeah, you can win money. So, like I said, I had a single entry league where each person's only allowed one entry, but most of these I could enter 15 times with 15 different lineups if I wanted to, but I'd have to pay an entry fee each time. So
does
that's how that goes.
each league have a different fee for what you have to pay in?
Yep. Like the first one I was telling you about, it's a $10 entry, and then I have another that's a $10 entry, and then I have two $5 entries. So I mean, I put in $30 total this week, and just to kind of test out the waters. I was curious. I had never done it before, and I wanted to see how it went. So, and they're also going to give me an extra $30 for entering that $30. And by the way, if you ever see those enter promo code this, you can really put whatever words you want in there, and they'll say congratulations. That's the correct promo code.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they
I
just want you
literally
to get in
let
at
me
this
think of
point.
something football related. I'm gonna say yard, and they're like congratulations. I was like, oh okay. I could have said chains. I could have said football. I could have said feet. I could have said blue, and I'm sure they would have given it to me. So it really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's my little guide to 1 week fantasy league stuff. Hit us up. Let us know if you're a vet in that. Do you enjoy doing it? Have you made any money doing this? Let me know. I am curious. Hit us up. Comments down below. Of course, at What's My Face on Twitter. Google Plus Facebook. Always good ways of getting a hold of us. But let's keep on rolling. And the next topic we're talking is I'm just going to give you the picks for every game. So if you're a gambler, you can bet against what I say and probably make some money.
how'd you turn out last week?
I don't know. I should probably look into that.
Yeah, I don't think you want to. Is that it?
I'm pretty sure it's pretty bad.
You got the
I'm
one
pretty
game
sure it's
right.
pretty-
The one game that
Which
was the one that was the Thursday night game. Had
Oh,
already
well, of
happened.
course I got that one right. 'Cause I always get Thursday night games right. All right,
Because
so
they
let's
had
start
already
off.
happened.
Yeah, so let's start off with the Ravens Steelers game. I'm gonna guess Ravens will win 23-20.
Really?
Yeah, 23-20.
Because of Vick being in instead of Rothsberg?
Sure, and because it played last night, and I know the exact score. So, but yeah, let's.
No one has to know. Even though I already mentioned
This was recorded on Wednesday. On Wednesday. Let's just go down the list from as I have it here. So we have the Eagles, Redskins, Philadelphia -3. I hate to do it, but I'm going to pick Philadelphia. I just have no confidence in the Redskins. This is about the time of year where they usually start going downhill, so I expect the descent
not
to be
like
long
they've
and
been
arduous.
not like they've been very uphill so far either. So.
Yeah, they had one good game. They were 1-1.
Yay!
Yeah, so I'm going with the Eagles beating the Redskins there. It'll probably be close. It is an NFC East game, so anything can happen in those games. But yeah, Now, I'll only say I picked the Eagles on the show because I'm a Redskins fan, and so I never say it in public, but I try to be objective from time to time. Sometimes.
And hopefully Brian picking the Eagles will mean the Redskins will win.
There you go. There you go. Couldn't hurt. Then we have the Jets against the Dolphins. This is a traditional rivalry. Jets have just looked good, and the Dolphins have not lived up to the promise that they've had so far this year. Ryan Tannehill has had sparkles, but he hasn't been that shining star that we thought he was going to be. So I'm going to pick the Jets. Just that defense has been ferocious. Ryan Fitzpatrick's shown, give him the weapons, he will move the ball. And he has been doing that. So I'm going to go with the Jets over the Bills.
Have really surpassed expectations over the last few weeks.
I didn't expect that. Then we have the Jaguars playing the Colts. I'm just going to go for it and say it. It will be the Colts. I saw something that the past 14 games against division rivals, the Colts are 14-0. So this is a division rivalry. Jaguars aren't that great. And I'm pretty sure Andrew Luck wants some payback on some teams for the way he started out this year. So I'm going to pick the Colts there. Then we have the Giants playing the Bills. I'm kind of, it's a toss-up with this, but I'm going to give it to the Bills. They've been playing really, really tenacious defense. They've shown that their running game, doesn't matter who's in there running it, is going to do good. And who would have thought Tyrod Taylor would have been as good as he's been? Nobody. And the Giants, they lost a lot of players. I mean, they did have a good 10 days to rest, but I believe both of their starting cornerbacks will be out for this game. Cromartie and Rogers Cromartie and Prince of Mukamara. So that's going to be really detrimental to them. And they don't really have the pass rush that they've had traditionally. So look for Tyrod Taylor to be able to have plenty of time to pass the ball to whoever he wants. So I'm going to go with the Bills there. Then we have Panthers, Buccaneers. Panthers are going to stomp Buccaneers. I'm sorry. Jameis Winston, you have no shot, buddy. The Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton is playing the best football of his career, and the defense is spectacular. So sorry, Buccaneers, you're going down the tube. Then we have Raiders, Bears. I was talking about this with our 1 week fantasy league. I really hope that the Raiders go in and stomp them, like put up like 85 points against them, because that means I'm going to do well in my 1 week fantasy football league.
If they put up 85 points, that would be pretty spectacular right there.
It would be spectacular. So I'm going with the Raiders over the Bears there. Then we have Texans and Falcons. Falcons are 3-0. Texans are 1-2. I don't know what it – I do know what it is. It's that they don't have a quarterback. So the Texans really just have not looked good at all. Defense hasn't looked quite as good as it did last year either. So it's going to be the Falcons. Julio Jones is going to run all over the place. They got their running game going. It's going to be the Falcons. Then we have the Chiefs against the Bengals. Bengals have just been playing spectacular football as well. And so I'm going to pick the Bengals there. Browns and Chargers. Oh, I'm going to pick the Browns. Never again will I pick the Browns. I picked them as my lock of the week for week 1 to beat the Jets. And what did they do? Just get stomped. So I'll never pick the Browns again, ever, until I decide I want to pick them again.
I mean,
that's just my pick for the
it's
Chargers.
just going against general policy, because we know that the Browns just suck.
It's Cleveland. What are you going to do in Cleveland? Then
As
we have
always
the
say,
Packers.
like, we're sorry, Cleveland. We're sorry.
Yeah, we're
Oh.
not trying to pick on you, Cleveland. You just kind
You've
of
been
suck.
watching your sports. You've been watching your own sports. You know what?
Yeah,
you know the
story.
story.
You know better than us. I don't watch your games as much as you watch your games, Cleveland. So yeah. And then we have the Packers playing the 49ers. Packers are going to run all over them. Not run the ball. Speaking of which, we have to talk about a trade you made in fantasy football. But Packers are going to. 49ers aren't doing too well. Like the first game of the season, they came out and shocked everybody with what they could do, and then they came back down to earth, and they were like, "Oh, half your defense is gone, your offense isn't there, you're not so great." Then we have Rams versus Cardinals. Cardinals seem to be almost invincible when you have Carson Palmer at the helm, so look for the Cardinals to go nuts there. Vikings Broncos. That's going to be a closer one, but I'm going to guess that the Broncos are going to win. Anything can happen because you have Adrian Peterson on your side with the Vikings. He has shown that he is very capable of breaking off multiple 80-yard touchdown runs, and that can change every game. But Peyton Manning is playing really well. That defense is very tenacious. So I'm looking for the Broncos to win that one. And then we have Cowboys Saints. Both of these teams have their backup quarterbacks there. So a draw? Are they going to draw? I don't know how to call this game because neither one of them have their best players. And Saints will win. That's what I'll go for. No real reason behind it at all. Just because. just because. Then the Monday night game is the Lions versus the Seahawks, and the Seahawks they were very disappointed to start 0-2. They will be 2-2 after this week, so go for the Seahawks to beat the Lions. But that's my picks of the week.
Well, okay.
Lions aren't doing too well.
I just think that the Lions aren't doing spectacular either.
Neither team is doing well. That's why I picked the Seahawks. The Seahawks have played better than the Lions.
Oh, I thought you were saying that okay. I thought you were picking the Lions.
Brendan pays no attention to me at all.
I heard you. I misinterpreted your statements.
But so let us know what you think. What are your picks for this weekend? Are you going to bet against my picks? And if so, if you lose money, it's not my fault. And if you win money, I deserve half of it.
Okay.
But yeah, so let's keep on moving. Let's give you our fantasy football rundown. So we do have the Words to My Face League. You can always check it out. Go on to espn.com/fantasyfootball/words from my face. I think that's how you get to it. And you can see how all the teams are panning out. Now, we do have me and Brendan playing this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But we won't talk about that. We're going to talk about last week's games.
I don't like
and a trade Brendan made. So, Brendan, why don't you explain the trade you just made yesterday?
With who did I trade with? Tabner?
No, you traded with
Lucas? Crawford?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's actually why I made the trade too, because it was Lucas. But
no, you shouldn't just trade with him because
no. He actually I proposed that trade. He proposed an initial trade for Eddie Lacy, giving me just crappy players, and I was like, no. But there's a couple position. There's a position in particular that I've been doing terrible with. That he had the quarterback. My quarterbacks have been terrible. They just have. They have not been putting up the numbers they have. But he had a benched quarterback that was better than both my quarterbacks. And I was like, you know what?
So you went with Andy Dalton. So the trade was Eli Manning and Eddie Lacy for Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you could have just cut Eli Manning and still gotten more for Eddie Lacy. Let's see who's on his roster.
I thought about that too, but I was like, I don't. Whatever.
You could have gone for one of his better wide receivers. He would have given up either one of those for Eddie Lacy. You could have gone for, you know what? His team kind of.
Eddie Lacy has not been performing as well as expected, though. Like he's been maybe my best wide receiver.
Because Andy Dalton's still on his bench.
It finalizes tomorrow.
Do you want me to veto it?
If you want to veto it, but Eddie Lacy
I'm not
been
going to veto it if you want it.
I might want to retract Eli Manning, but I don't know. I
don't think you can. It's been accepted on both
Eddie
sides.
Lacy is the best.
I'm just saying, Eddie Lacy
that I have for that position.
For him. Yeah, you could have gotten a lot more for him.
But he really hasn't been. I might have been able to get a lot more. I don't know. I don't know if he would have given up.
He's done really bad so far, yes. But I'm still telling you could have gotten more for Eddie Lacy.
You think I could have gotten another wide receiver with Andy Dalton? Because that was the thing, is I really thought that I wasn't going to get. I thought that maybe I'd get Andy Dalton for Eddie Lacy if you really wanted Eddie Lacy. I didn't think I was going to get more though for Eddie Lacy, considering Eddie Lacy has not been performing.
Yeah, but Andy Dalton
has
projected to perform. Yeah, that's true, and I'm not hating on you there. I'm not saying that Eddie Lacy and Andy Dalton is a bad trade, but you were the one who had to throw in the kicker. He should have been the one who had to throw in the kicker. He should have thrown in the extra player, whereas you just give up one.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. That is what it is. But let's
go
into what happened.
I didn't need to have Manning around anymore at that point, and I figured, hey, now you have a backup quarterback.
Yeah, so let's go into what happened last week. My team, the Disgruntled Wookiees, is off to a 3-0 start, demolishing every team in our wake, leaving just bodies of strewn and fantasy football owners, arms here, legs there, because they are the Disgruntled Wookiees. So they leave a path of destruction. So I won 123-89. I'm 3-0. I'm just demolishing people. Then we move on. Redskin Potatoes crush Teamers, say 127-84.
The Potatoes crush the Roussettes.
There you go. And then we have a lopsided game, to say the least. See, this is what happens when you don't brush up on my fantasy football tips video before you draft. Brendan did lose to Team Baker 150-155. That's more of an aberration. and somebody only scoring 55. It like a perfect storm happened and it screwed you. That's kind of what I can say happened.
I had
even though Eli
pretty
Manning
bad
had
the week
19
before
points.
too, though. It was like everything was bad. Everything's been bad for weeks. That's why I needed to make some drastic changes. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that, yeah.
No one's
then we
performing
had
for some reason.
Team Crawford beat Team Hugel 104-95. That was maybe a 50-point comeback on Monday night, I believe, because Crawford had both James Jones and Aaron Rodgers, and they scored over 50 points, and he came back and won that one. So that was a pretty crazy one. And then our reigning champ, Team Tavener, has just fallen to 0-3, losing to Cowboys and Indians 90-76. So that's the Fantasy Football League. Like I said, you can always check it out, see what's going on. If you want to model your team after anybody's, that's this guy's. If you want to not model your team after anybody's, that's that guy's.
I think I may have set some records for low scores a couple weeks ago, but
but hey, anything can happen week to week. That is why we love watching the NFL, and that's why we love playing fantasy football. So, but yeah, hit us up and let us know any questions. If you have questions with rosters or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm not 100% on everything, but I'll give you some good insight into a couple things. That you can always hit me up at Worst My Face on Twitter with your fantasy football lineups and say, hey, who you want? This person or this person, or start 2 or 3, or anything like that. I'll give you some answers if you're on the fence about a couple things. But yeah, so I think that's about it for the night. As always, I'm Brian. With me, as always, the Tyrant of Cool, producer extraordinaire, Brendan.
you.
And we are going to headbang our way out of this joint. And good night, everybody!